Bullet. What if Earth stopped spinning for just 1 second in the blink of an eye? The Earth just stops spinning. But you, the oceans, the atmosphere, and every skyscraper on the planet are all still moving at over 1,000 miles per hour. This isn't some slow-motion disaster. This is the instant end of everything as you know it. What would really happen in that single, catastrophic second? The answer is more terrifying than you might think. The law of violent motion. It all comes down to one simple, inescapable law of physics: inertia. Say, it's the same feeling you get when a car slams on its brakes and you lurch forward. Now, imagine that car isn't a car, it's a planet. And it's not moving at 60 miles per hour. It's spinning at over 1,000 miles per hour at the equator, or about 1,670 kilometers per hour. You, me, and everything around us are cruising along at that same incredible speed. We don't feel it because everything, including the air we breathe, is moving together. If the Earth froze for just 1 second, inertia means that everything not literally bolted to the planet's bedrock would continue its eastward journey at that breathtaking speed. The scientific term for it is inertia, but the human experience would be pure, unadulterated chaos. Imagine standing in a city like New York. Because of its latitude, it's rotating at nearly 800 miles per hour. The moment the planet freezes, you would be flung eastward. You wouldn't just fall over. You would be launched horizontally at the speed of a rifle bullet. Force would be so immense, you'd be subjected to an acceleration strong enough to liquefy a person. But you wouldn't be alone. Cars would become 1,000-pound projectiles. Trees ripped from the ground would turn into battering rams. And those towering skyscrapers that define our modern world, they'd be torn from their foundations and sent tumbling across the landscape, shattering into a storm of steel and glass. Everything on the surface of the planet would effectively be tossed into a blender. Nothing would be left standing. The sheer force would turn the surface of our world into a debris field of what once was. The sheer force would turn the surface of our world into a debris field of what once was. The only things that might survive this initial impact would be structures buried deep underground in reinforced bunkers, shielded from the instantaneous global demolition. But for them, the ordeal would be far from over. The scourge of a supersonic atmosphere as the solid ground beneath our feet comes to a dead stop. The blanket of air surrounding our planet would keep right on going. Our atmosphere, from sea level to the edge of space, would continue to rage onward at its original speed. This would trigger the most extreme winds the planet has ever known. At the equator, the winds would gust at over 1,000 miles per hour faster than the speed of sound. These wouldn't be like any hurricane or tornado. They'd be hypersonic blasts of air scouring the entire surface of the planet. These winds would be orders of magnitude stronger than the most powerful tornadoes ever recorded, stripping topsoil from the earth and reducing fertile lands to barren rock in an instant. Structures that somehow survived the initial inertial shock would be sandblasted into dust. All that friction would generate an insane amount of heat, essentially flash cooking the planet's surface and sparking global firestorms. The immense energy transfer would cook the planet's surface. The wind wouldn't just be a force of destruction. It would be a wave of incinerating heat, wrapping around the entire globe. Even away from the equator, the devastation would be absolute. In mid-latitude cities, winds would still be hundreds of miles per hour, more than enough to obliterate anything in their path. Even in the highest latitude city on Earth, Longyearbyen in Norway, residents would be hit by winds equivalent to the planet's strongest cyclones. Nowhere would be safe. The atmosphere, the very thing that sustains life, would become a weapon of planetary annihilation. The ocean, unleashed while the land is being scoured and incinerated, an even greater catastrophe would be unfolding in the seas. The Earth's oceans, vast and heavy, possess an incredible amount of inertia. The planet stops. This colossal body of water would surge forward, continuing its eastward motion. This wouldn't create a normal tsunami. This would be a global wall of water, a mega tsunami of biblical proportions, sweeping across the continents. The waves generated could be hundreds, if not thousands, of feet high, dwarfing any tsunami in recorded history. They would crash onto the eastern coasts of every continent with unimaginable force, not just flooding coastal cities, but surging for miles and miles inland, engulfing entire regions. Rivers, would violently reverse their course and lakes would overflow their banks, as the water reshapes the world's geography in a matter of seconds. The sheer momentum of the oceans would cause them to slosh back and forth, creating a chaotic series of continent-drowning waves that would wash over the land again and again. The kinetic energy of the water, combined with the supersonic winds, would create a churning, violent slurry. It would be impossible to tell where the ocean ended and the storm began. This global flood would not just destroy it, would wash the world clean, burying the ruins of our civilization under a turbulent, boiling sea. A planet shaking itself apart. The catastrophe isn't just on the surface. The very planet itself would protest this sudden, violent stop. The Earth isn't a single solid rock. It's made of layers, a crust, a mantle, and a molten core. The sudden halt of the crust and mantle would send a shockwave of unimaginable power ripping through the planet. This abrupt change in motion would trigger devastating earthquakes of a magnitude we've never seen. The tectonic plates, which normally drifted a few inches per year, would slam into each other with cataclysmic force. These planet-wide quakes would rupture the crust, triggering volcanic eruptions on a global scale. Chains of volcanoes, both active and dormant, would erupt at once, spewing ash and lava into the already chaotic atmosphere. Down in the center of the planet, the swirling ball of molten iron that generates Earth's magnetic field would be massively disrupted. This field acts as our shield, protecting us from harmful solar radiation. While the shield wouldn't vanish instantly, this jolt to the system would be the beginning of the end for our protection from deadly cosmic rays. In that 1 second, the Earth wouldn't just be a scene of surface destruction. It would be shaking itself apart from the inside out. The cruel restart, and then, after 1 second of this utter hell, the Earth would start spinning again. This restart would be just as disastrous as the stop. Everything that was just violently flung eastward, the water, the debris, the very air itself would now smash into a planet's surface that is suddenly moving it over 1,000 miles per hour underneath it. It would be like hitting a brick wall. Again. A second, equally powerful wave of destruction would sweep across the globe, this time from the opposite direction. Anything that miraculously survived being thrown eastward would now be slammed westward. The oceans, which had surged across the continents, would be violently pulled back, creating another series of reverse tsunamis that would scour the land once more on their retreat. This planetary whiplash would ensure that anything left standing after the initial stop would be obliterated by the restart. The 1 second pause delivers a brutal 1-2 puncher, near instantaneous cycle of total annihilation. Conclusion: so, what are you left with after just 1 second? A world that is utterly unrecognizable. The surface would be a mangled, flooded, and burning wasteland. The atmosphere would be a toxic soup of ash, steam, and debris. The vast majority of life on the surface would be extinguished in that single, horrifying moment. The only potential survivors might be those at the geographic poles where the rotational speed is near zero. Or maybe people in the deepest, most fortified subterranean bunkers, who would emerge to a world they no longer recognize. They would find a planet with a fundamentally altered climate, a collapsing magnetic field, and a landscape reshaped by forces beyond human comprehension. It's a terrifying scenario, but it gives you a whole new appreciation for the quiet, constant spin of our planet. That gentle, silent rotation, something we never feel and rarely think about, is the silent guardian of our existence. It gives us our days and nights, drives our weather, and makes life itself possible. A 1 second pause is pure fantasy. But understanding its catastrophic consequences gives us a newfound respect for the constant, beautiful motion of the world beneath our feet. If you enjoy exploring these mind-bending scenarios, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. What if questions should we tackle next? Let us know in the comments below. And for more explorations into the cosmos, check out this next video. Thanks for watching.